Shavua Tov, Chanukah Sameach. We're on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, a few lines from the top by the Mishnah. We're going to learn about the nuances of a mu'ad shor. Shor shehu mu'ad lemino, an ox that is mu'ad, that it did 3 times to its own species, yani oxen. But mu'ad l'shein lemino, but it is not a mu'ad for other animals, yani if it's all the animals and didn't gore them. Mu'ad le'adam, if it's mu'ad for people. Sorry. But it's not muad for animals. Muad l'ktanim, it's muad for small animals. But it's not muad for big animals. For the animals that's muad for, or the creatures that it's muad for, including people, you're nezashlim. So you pay half damages if it's not muad. All right, so till now we never had the difference. We assumed that once a gore is 3 times your chayav. Now it sounds like it has to develop a pattern, and for those things only, if it develops a pattern, you pay full damages and muad. But if it damages something else, you're not. I'm going to go to Rabbi Yehuda. They ask in front of Rabbi Yehuda. If let's say it damaged on 3 consecutive Shabbatot, but it's not a muad on weekdays. What's the halacha? All right, so I believe there is a reason. There's it may not realize that people look different to them because they're wearing different clothing on Shabbats. That's why it might happen. Anyhow, so if it does only during on Shabbats, not during 3 consecutive Shabbatot, but on weekdays, if it now gores again on Shabbat, you pay full. In weekdays will be half. When does an animal become tam? When does it get revert back to tam? When it does not gore 3 Shabbatot in a row. 8th one. Razvid said, Ve'ena mu'ad ktan. The Mishnah said, Ve'ena mu'ad. Meaning, according to him, he says that the ox that is a mu'ad for its own species, but it is not a mu'ad regarding other animals. And the Papa says, Ena mu'ad ktan. He says, an ox that is, so he reads the Mishnah that an ox is mu'ad for its own, for other oxen, is not a mu'ad for animals that is not an ox. So, according to this vid, that means that it's if an animal is mu'ad for itself, like an ox, it's not known to be mu'ad for others. But according to the Papa, his way of reading it is that an ox known to be mu'ad for oxen is assumed not to be mu'ad for others. Right? So let's understand what's going on. As Vidamar in a mu'ad, and according to Rav Zvid, it says that it's not a mu'ad for others. Right? In a mu'ad has to have a mu'ad, which means that in general the ox is considered a mu'ad in general, right? It has mu'ad tendencies. Is without a vav. Meaning that in general it's not known to be mu'ad, and we're going to prove it according to each opinion. Zvid learns it from the second part of the Mishnah. Papa learns from the beginning. Zvid learns it from the beginning. In the second case, sorry. He learns that it's mu'ad for young animals, but not for older animals. Makes sense if you taught me that in general it's not a mu'ad, which means it's not going to be mu'ad for others in general. Therefore, the Mishnah is teaching you regarding the larger and smaller animals, even regarding from smaller animals to bigger animals, this ox it's considered to be mu'ad. Therefore, it's a hidush. But if you hold like the other rabbi, like Rabbi Ba, who holds that it says without a vav, and a mu'ad, which means in general it's not known to be a mu'ad. Therefore, one could say, if it's from one young animal of ox to another young animal of a cow, for example, it's not known to be a mu'ad. Right? So according to Rabbi Papa, who holds that, you learn it that in your only chayav, there's actually only consider mu'ad specifically for that thing, but nothing else. Even if it's small cow to small ox, right? So then you don't need it to be if it's talking about a different animal. Let's say small ox to big ox or small ox to big cow. So there's no hidush. So what would be the hidush according to the way Rabbi Papa learns it? So first we're going to answer Rabbi Papa, then we're going to bring Rabbi Papa's answer. Oh, Rabbi Papa's learning, his inference. Not a question. You might think since once the ox broke through its normal behavior by goring a young animal, maybe it already opens the door for it to gore any animal. Whether it's not a larger animal of its type or a smaller animal's type. Either way, it always will be considered a mu'ad. Therefore, the Mishnah teaches you that no, even if you gored smaller animals of cows, it's not considered a mu'ad for big cows. Okay. Right, so we wrote a proof of Zid from the second part. We use it as a question against Rav Papa, and Rav Papa answered why it's not a question against him. Now we're going to bring Rav Papa's diuk from the first part of the Mishnah. Titani, mu'ad ladam ina mu'ad lebehema. An animal that is mu'ad for a person is not considered mu'ad behema. Iyamar bishma ina mu'ad tan stamalav mu'ad. Right, so Rav Papa says, I like the way to learn without the vav. Ina mu'ad, which means in general, an ox is not going to be known to be mu'ad for other animals if it's only mu'ad for a person. Therefore, the chidush is that even from people to animals, it's not known to be mu'ad, and therefore you will be. That's the chidush. The chidush should be that if even if it's already mu'ad for a person, which you might think is a kal v'chomer, that if it's mu'ad for a person, it definitely would hurt an animal, which. Right, you have less of a chance of it going a person, so it's already muad. You would think it would automatically an animal. If you would hold up a zvid who had the word ve'en muad, hastama have a muad, which would mean that you would assume it is a muad for other animals. Therefore, you could say from one animal to another type of animal, this tama be a muad. But from person to an animal, would you need to teach me that it's muad? No, we cover chomer. So therefore, he says it's not a. It wouldn't be a chidush according to Rav Zvid. So he hasn't. That's what Papa does not like Rav Zvid's way of learning with the vav. So now, how does Rav Zvid answer that question? Rav Zvid will tell you Reisha Hazarakai. The first part of the Mishnah where it says it's muad for people, but not regarding to animals, is referring to when the animal is a muad trying to get back to a tam. Was that first both a muad for people and animals? And it stopped goring animals. It stood near an animal 3 times that didn't gore. Therefore, it goes back to tam status. Without Mishnah teaching this, what would you have thought? Since it never stopped goring people yet, maybe it won't be considered a tam yet by animals, at least. Therefore, the Mishnah teaches you, no, you could do like a partial retraction, a partial reversion back to tam by an animal. Okay, Metive. They ask the question and answer Zvid. Simchus says, an animal is mu'ad for a person. It's for sure mu'ad an animal because of a kav v'chomer, like we said earlier. If it's mu'ad for a person, the behemah kosher again for sure should be a mu'ad for an animal. Right? It's more naturally scared of a person. Which, from that line, makes Tana Kama in a mu'ad Tana Kama. According to Simchu's way of learning it, sounds like Tana Kama holds that the animal is not assumed to be a mu'ad regarding animals, which is against what Raziz said. Raziz said it's considered stam to be mu'ad. Where it says no. Amalach Razvid, Simchus Achazrakai. Simchus is referring to the ox going back to tam status. Therefore, this is what he's telling Tanakama. That's what she said, that an animal going back to tam is a true retraction back to tam. Doesn't like it. If it only retracted from an animal, it's not a true reversion. Because it's a kavachon for a person. Meaning, we try to say, oh, if it retracted from goring animals, it's considered a good retraction, and it'll only be mu'ad for people, not for Adam. So who's saying no, doesn't make sense. Just if it's still goring people, it could still gore an animal. There's no such thing as retracting only the animal part. Okay, Amar Ravashi. Ravashi has a proof for Azvit. Tashma. Amru l'fnei Rabbi Dali said in front of Rabbi Harezem mu'ad l'shabbatot. If an animal is mu'ad for Shabbatot, ve'en mu'ad l'yimad but not mu'ad for weekdays. Amar lehen l'shabbatot mishnah nezek ben hachal b'mazinezek. Right, same thing they quoted the Mishnah. Shabbat, full damage, weekday half. It makes sense according to the Zvid, where he says because therefore they're asking him a question in regarding the case of Shabbat. Is it considered muad? And he says, and then he's answering that yes, that no, Shabbat you are muad, we take your patur, you're chati nazek. But if the Mishnah says you're not a muad, which means that the students were asking the rabbi that it's not considered muad at all, as Rabbi Fam would hold, were they teaching him how to learn the Mishnah? Right? They were making it sound like that it should be muad against what seemingly the rabbi would hold. But two, additionally, and if that's the case, then how would he tell them that he's Nezir Shalim if they hold is not considered muad? Where it says, we can even prove according to the Zvid from the first part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that whatever you're muad for, you're Nezir Shalim. And whatever you're not muad for, you're a tam still. It makes sense according to the Zvid who holds muad, which means this part is explaining the previous part. Which meaning saying yes, you can become a partial muad, and you won't be assuming to be a muad for other things. You become a muad for small oxen, you won't be muad for anything else, and therefore, if you hit a small ox, if it's not a small ox, chati nezek. Eliyah amat in a muad, it's not a muad, paska. Mishnah already finished its statement. Why would it then say that you would pay full damages for a muad, and you pay half damages for a non-muad animal? Unless you want to teach me, you have to show me that until now we never learned the halacha. Would it mean that this is the first time we're learning that a muad full damages and times hatzi nezek? That's not true because we've mentioned it 1,000 times. We're only daf lamed zayin. We know this already 1,000 times, right? So the inference of the fact that the Mishnah is teaching you that there are partial cases of muadot for certain species and certain creatures shows me that an animal can become a partial muad while still remaining a tam for other creatures. Big question against Rav Papa and it's a proof for a zvit. Even if you want to say, you know what, I like Rav Papa anyhow, right? Even though it just bombed him. Nagach shor hamor vegamal. Right? So let's say he holds that one animal is not considered muad for others. Let's say an animal gored an ox, donkey, and camel. Nasa muad lakol, it becomes a muad for all species. Right? Even according to Rabbi. Okay. Interesting cases now. So number one. If he gored one, and he saw an ox and gored it. Short lo nagach. Number two, did not gore. Short nagach. Third ox gored. Short lo nagach. He gored a fourth ox. Sorry, did not gore the fourth. Short nagach. He saw the fifth and gored it. Short lo nagach. Sixth did not gore. Nasim muad l'sirgin l'shvarim becomes a alternating muad for oxen. Meaning he would be gore. He's considered a muad for skipping every other ox. Interesting. If you saw a donkey, if you saw a short gored donkey, did not gore. Horse gored, gamal lo nagach, gamal skipped. Pered nagach, mule, and he gored it. Aro lo nagach, he saw a donkey, he did not gore it. Nasem muad serigin nakol, it becomes an interspecial muad while alternating as well. Okay, you might ask the question. Nagach, if an ox gored short, hamor vegamal. If it gored three straight oxen, a donkey, then a camel. Mahu. How do we look at it? I short batra, the last ox. Batar shvarim shadina. Do we say that it goes according to the first two oxen, which means ba'akatik shvarim hudu I. Therefore, it's only muad for oxen. The middle achin the loyed and does not become muad for other creatures. Yani for the last two, the donkey and the camel, or dima. High short batra, the last ox gets thrown into batar hamor v'gamash. Then we regroup it with the last two. The donkey and the camel. They add the cholmini, therefore becomes muad for all animals. Another question. Hamor v'gamav short. If an ox gored a donkey, camel, and then three oxen, right? The reverse question. Mahu. Hi short kama batar the hamor v'gamav. The first ox, does that go with the first two animals? Therefore it's mu'ad for all animals. Or perhaps we throw it with the other oxen. Therefore only mu'ad for oxen and nothing else. Similar question. Shabbat, 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 ve'echad b'Shabbat, ve'sheni b'Shabbat. If it gored 3 Shabbatot in a row, and then the last Shabbat it gored on Shabbat, and then Sunday, and then Monday. Mahu. Hash Shabbat Batay, it's not Shabbat. Batar Shabbat, who does you do is go with the first 2 Shabbatot. Ve'akat Shabbat, who the therefore it'll only be gored, it will only be a mu'ad for Shabbatot. While remaining a tam for weekdays. Therefore, maybe we say that it goes the last Shabbat goes with the Sunday, Monday, and therefore there be mu'ad for the weeks. Hamishi b'Shabbat, Erev Shabbat, v'Shabbat, v'Shabbat, v'Shabbat. If it goes on Thursday, Friday, Shabbat, and then the next 2 Shabbats, right? So the reverse. Mahu. Shabbat Kamata, the first Shabbat, but Hamishi Shabbat, Erev Shabbat, does it go with the Thursday, Friday, and therefore be therefore be mu'ad for the whole week. O Dilma, Shabbat Kamaita, but Shabbat, maybe the first Shabbat gets jumped with the next 2 Shabbatot, or Shabbatot be therefore becomes mu'ad for Shabbatot while remaining a time for weekdays. And there the Gemara says the whole 4 answers. Teiku, that's for you, Az. Nagach short Yom Hamisha Asar bechodesh Zeh. If the ox gored on an ox on the 15th day of one month. V'yom Shisha Asar bechodesh Zeh, and then he gored on the 16th of the next month. V'yom Shiva Asar bechodesh Zeh, and then he gored on the 17th of the 3rd month. Piluktu de Rav and Shmuel to Ma'achokov between Rav and Shmuel. The Itmar. Ra'atam Yom Hamisha Asar bechodesh Zeh. If a woman had a nida blood discharge on the 15th day of 1 month. V'yom Shisha Asar b'chodesh Zeh, and the next month it was the 16th. V'yom Shiva Asar b'chodesh Zeh, and then the 17th day was the 3rd month. Rav Amar Rav says, Kav'ala Veset, she established herself a monthly nida period, which would be adding a day every month, right? So you can assume and plan, and should be considered a part of her cycle, will be every month adding a day. U'Shmuel Amar, she cannot establish it until she experiences it jumping a day 3 months in a row, which means that it has to happen 3 times, right? And then the 4th time would make it into, right? You have to add another one, right? So just like Rav and Shmuel argue regarding the Nida, same will be by an ox, whether it's 3 or 4. Okay. Marava. Shema kol shofar v'nagach. If it heard a shofar and gourd, kol shofar v'nagach. Then it heard another shofar and gourd, kol shofar v'nagach. 3rd time it heard shofar and gourd, naseh muad the shofarot becomes muad for shofarot. Duh. Versus Ma'udatim, we might think, maybe the first time it just got scared from the sound and not necessarily from shofar, so maybe it doesn't become a muad from that. We say no, it still counts. Okay. Short if an ox of a Jew gored an ox of hektish. Hektish ox gored a person patur. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, if your ox has to gore another person's ox. Which excludes the ox of hektish. If an ox of a Jew gored a Kanaani's ox, patur. But if an ox of a Kanani gores a Jewish ox, ben tam ben muad, whether or not it was a tam or muad, the Kanani has to pay full damages. And then our Mishnah is like with Rabbi Shimon Menashe, the Tanya, as the Baita says over there. If the ox of a person gored the ox of hektish, or if an ox of hektish gored a regular person, patur. As the pasuk says, that has to belong to your friend, not for Hektish's animal. But if a person's ox gores Hektish's ox, which is where we see why our Mishnah is not like him, ben tam ben muam, you have to pay full damages for Hektish. Right? Shimon Menashe holds in that regard only that a person's ox who gores a Hektish ox, you're chayav. That's where we see the difference. Why would Rabbi Shimon hold that? If you mean that it's your friend, which means it has to be your friend. Then obviously, like our Mishnah said, if your ox gets gored by hektish, if your ox gores hektish, you should also be batur, like our Mishnah. But if it means that if he says, "Oh, re'ehu" doesn't necessarily mean his friend, then you can't have it both ways. Even when the ox of hektish gores his, the hektish should be chayav, right? So how do you learn? If it's re'ehu means your friend, one of them should be patur, and if re'ehu does not mean your friend, both should be chayav. If you try to answer me, means your actual friend. And the reason why, when according to him, where a person's ox gored hektish is ox shachayav, because you're trying to bring a kavachomer from a regular person, meaning if a regular person's ox gored another person's ox chayav. Shouldn't you learn that a person's ox who gored another person's ox should be a chayav also? What? We try to bring a proof. Then we say now dayo lavo we have dayo. You cannot use a kava chomer to teach you more than what the kava chomer learned from, right? So if you're learning A to B, B cannot be more stringent from A through the kava chomer, and therefore just like over here by an ordinary person, you have chatinezek. So too by hekdesh, it should also be chatinezek. But Rav Shimon Manasseh said automatically nezek shalim for hekdesh's animal if it got gored. Therefore, we shall bring a new explanation for Shimon. All cases of the ox for a regular person is technically included in nezek shalem, even if the victim is from hekdesh. Because when the pasuk said his friend, it was only in regarding to a regular person. In etam, only your friend's ox you pay half damage. And therefore by hekdesh, no matter what type of animal you have to pay full damages. The imken, because if you were to tell me that you're patur if you damage hekdesh, it should have said re'ehu also by mu'ad. Therefore, the fact that it only said your friend's ox by hilchot of tam, therefore we're telling you tam, the only time you pay tam chatzin nezek is by another person. However, if your animal damaged has hekdesh, full damages. Amen.